Notion's team has been hard at work in 2022. In fact, they've added 30 new features and enhancements to the software since the beginning of the year back in January. So in today's video, I'm sharing those 30 improvements and new features that might have slipped under the radar for you that you may have missed. And hopefully you learn something new or you find a hidden gem in Notion that you may have not known about. If you enjoy this video, please leave a quick like, as it took quite a bit of research to get this video out. Lots of time went into this. And also go ahead and leave a comment below if you have any constructive feedback or if you just want to leave some kind words to keep us going. All right, let's jump right in. So I'm going to be starting back in January of 2022 and working my way up to August of 2022. That's the current month when I'm recording this video. So if you don't want to see these older feature enhancements, then you can skip ahead in this video. But I was actually surprised when I was doing research on some of these things. I didn't even know Notion added them. So you might be surprised too if you stick around and watch the whole thing. So getting into tip number one, Notion now allows you to set a default homepage for your workspace. Now, in order to do this, you're just going to go to Settings and Members, and then you're going to go to My Notifications and Settings. And here, if you check out this section down here, it says Open on Start. Choose what to show when Notion starts or when you switch workspaces. So you can have it go to last visited page, or you can do top page in sidebar. So now that I have it set to top page and sidebar, it's actually just going to go directly to my home page. All right, jumping right into update and feature enhancement number 2, Notion now allows you to get a little bit more specific with how someone in your team can interact with your database. So now if you have a full page database like this, you can go up to the share button. You can select somebody that you want to share it with. And then if you want to, you can change to can edit content. Before it was just full access, can edit, can comment, and can view. Now it's can edit content. So this allows people to edit what's within the database, but not the actual structure and database views. So that is a pretty neat feature enhancement, and it definitely makes it easier to work with teams. All right, so coming in at number 3, Notion has finally exited their API's beta program. So before, they were only allowing certain access to certain people, and then it was like they were allowing people to use the API, but it wasn't super powerful yet. You couldn't use a lot of features. Now, Notion's API is out of beta, and they have all kinds of integrations on something like Zapier. If you want to check out Zapier, they basically make it easy to connect applications that you're using. Like you could connect your Notion to your Gmail account, or you could connect it to your Google Calendar, or really any app that you can find on Zapier. So that is pretty neat. Update number 4 is a dark mode improvement. So Notion had dark mode before, but now it's better than ever. They updated some of the colors to improve the contrast and to improve the hues of the color so that dark mode just looks that much better. It's easier on your eyes, it's easier to read, and it just looks super cool. So if I go into my Notion page here, if you want to enable dark mode, you can hold Command-Shift-L or Control-Shift-L if you're on Windows, but I'm on a Mac, so it's Command-Shift-L, and you get this beautiful, high contrast, really nice looking dark mode. So I like the looks of that since they've improved it. The next thing that Notion added this past year was better filtering. So in your database, when you're adding filters, it used to be a pretty cumbersome process, and your filter used to apply to everyone that was looking at the database. But now you can decide if you just want the filter to apply to you or if you want to apply it to everyone. And it's just much easier to create filters in Notion. Let me show you what I mean. So here we are in my notes database, and right now I have a filter applied to it called Make Private. So I have some private notes that I don't like to share live. Either that I have an NDA or it's just something personal that I don't want to share on YouTube. So we have this Make Private unchecked. So I can see my filters up here. And if I want to add a new filter, I just hit Add Filter. And then you select what you want to filter for, which property you want to use. Or you can hit Add Advanced Filter here if you want like a multi-stepped filter. But let's say I wanted to just filter by something like note type. And then I could filter just to see, let's say, meeting notes. Okay, and now I get all of my meeting notes appearing right here. With those advanced filters, you can even create filters that are 3 layers deep. So you can get pretty complex with that if you want to. But I thought that was a pretty cool improvement, and it definitely makes adding filters a lot quicker in Notion. In update number 6 for the year, Notion made database views a whole lot nicer to use, and they really just made the process for creating linked databases a lot easier and more streamlined. So let me show you what that process looks like now. So essentially, if I wanted to create another instance of my notes database, I could do that over on my homepage. Now, this used to be a little bit more cumbersome, but now you can just type /create and you'll see linked view of database pop up. You can click on that, and then it's going to allow you to select a data source here. And this kind of brings you through somewhat of an onboarding when you're creating a new database now. So if I wanted to, I could either go to my content planner or I could go to my notes, and I could choose which data source I wanted to select from here. So let's go with notes. And then you'll see this new feature as well. Now here they let you pick from an existing view, and you can hover over the different views that you have of this specific database. So if I wanted to pull in my list view from my other database, I could do so. And then I've got my list view here. Now, another new feature that they added is you can actually have multiple databases as different views. So I've got my notes database here. If I hit plus, I can select a new data source and I can add my other database in here, like my public templates database, let's say. So now I can toggle between my public templates database and my notes all within this one database. So that is pretty neat that it allows you to do that now. All right, coming in at update number 7, Notion finally allows you to hide and show database titles as you please. So if you have a database like this one here, and you see your title right here, you can click these 3 little dots and it's going to give you a few options. View database, which will take you to the original database. Edit database title, which allows you to actually change this title everywhere and it'll sync dynamically. And then there's hide database title. So if I hit hide database title, that is going to hide the title. All right, so now that title is gone for this notes database. If I click over to my public templates database, you'll see that the title is still there. So it hasn't changed for this one. But if I go back to my list here, if I wanted to bring that title back, all I would do is click on these 3 dots right here. I'd go to layout, and then there's a switch right here, show database title. And I can turn that back on, and boom, there is my title. In update number 8, Notion actually improved a lot of the ways that you use these databases and you change your views, filters, sorting, etc. So I'm going to show you how it looks now. Essentially, in this database, it used to be that you had to go through a bunch of different hoops. You had to go through a bunch of different menus to view your different views, but now they just span across the top here, as you were kind of seeing before. And if you click on this one more here, if you have extras, like more than 2, then you can see a full list of all of your database views. You can also edit filters and sorting right here very easily without going through a ton of different menus. It's all pretty much right here in the forefront, and it didn't used to be that way. Now, some of you who use Notion sparingly might have not noticed this one, but coming in at number 9, Notion got a huge speed improvement this year for their databases, especially databases and pages that are nested within multiple pages. So if you have like more than 3 pages deep, and you're trying to like click within a page, within a page, within a page, it used to just take forever to load if you had multiple pages within your hierarchy. And if it was more than like 2 or 3 pages within pages, it just got unusable to a point. So that one might go under the radar, but it's definitely a big improvement and people can feel the difference if you are a heavy Notion user and you have lots of pages. All right, now on to update number 10 for the year. Notion now allows you to export different database views. So if you have a current view in Notion, like let's say I'm on this all templates view and I wanted to just switch to my free templates view instead of showing my premium template as well. So as you can see here, I'm toggling between these. Let's say I just want to see my free ones when I export it. So if I click up here in the right corner and I go to export, these options used to be a bit more limited, but now you can go to include databases and you can decide if you want everything in that database or if you just want the current view. So if I hit current view and I hit export, now it's going to go ahead and export just this free templates view for me. So I can name this free templates and hit save. And then if I wanted to, I could have a separate one where I go to premium templates. There aren't a ton in here yet. We're working on that, but I would come in here and hit export, keep it on current view, export, and then I would have my premium templates back up. So it's nice that those are now separate. Update number 11 allows you to wrap specific columns in Notion. So here we have my notes database. And if I wanted to wrap, let's say this last edited column, I just right click it. And then there's a wrap column toggle switch right here. I can click that and boom, it wraps that column for me. And these other ones stay on their own single line. This one can just be brought down to a second line. This isn't the best example because I don't know why you would necessarily want to do it this way with a date, but it is pretty neat that you can now individually wrap certain lines. If you wanted to wrap all the columns, you just go up to this button up here and then you go to layout and wrap all columns. And then as you can see here, that brought this down to its second line, this one down to its second line as well. And this column over here is also brought down to second and third lines. So that's how you wrap columns. And basically the only difference is they made it so that you can wrap specific columns if you want to here. Now, update number 12 made a lot of you note takers pretty happy because it gave Notion the feature of allowing you to link blocks or mention blocks within your notes or within your pages on Notion. So let's say I just type something out right here and I wanted to reference this on a note on my notes database. So I could just highlight that, click these buttons right here, and then go to copy link to block. Okay, now I've got this block copied. So this specific block, I can write below it as well. And it's just going to take from this block specifically, not from this block. So if I go into my notes and let's say I just create a new note and I want to call it mentioned block, I could go ahead and fill out my notes details here. And then I could write out a quick little paragraph about something. And then let's say I wanted to reference that block. All I would have to do is go ahead and paste. And it's going to paste it as a link originally, which I don't really care for. But if you hit mention block, it's going to mention the page that it is located on, and you can click there. And then it's going to highlight that block when it pulls you to that page. So that's a pretty neat way to interlink your thoughts and kind of create a better second brain in Notion. Update number 13 gives you a little bit more visibility with your databases. So for this column right here, as you can see, it's the only type of column that can be squeezed down to just this wide. The rest of the columns have like, you know, they get stopped out at a certain point. But this checkbox column allows you to put it into just this single row. But then you don't really know the name of it, right? Like, what is this checkbox all about? Well, update number 13 on the year allowed you to hover over this. And now if I hover over it long enough, if you see there, it says make private. So it's allowing me to hover over this to see what that text actually is. This one got cut off as well. I could hover over it and it pulls up the full name of this property, note type. Those of you who use a lot of different softwares, but you use Notion as your central hub will love update number 14 because they're making the embeddable previews that much more alive in Notion. So let me show you what I'm talking about with a use case of mine that I have enjoyed in Notion. So they've done this for softwares like Figma, Zoom, Dropbox, and there's a few more that they've added. They kind of sneakily add these features in, and I think they're getting more and more integrated with the rest of the internet. So I've copied a link from my Figma account where I'm mocking up a website, and all I have to do is paste that link here. And as you can see, it pulls in my entire Figma mockup. It pulls in my entire board here. And then I can even hit expand, and I can kind of zoom in and look at things on my Figma account, but within Notion. So That's a lot better than just a boring link to my Figma board, and it gives people at least a bit of a preview here in Notion. So that update is pretty neat, and I think they're adding more software every single day. Update number 15 on the year simplified the relation property that you can use in your Notion databases to connect two databases together. So let's say I have a database of books and I want to connect it to my notes so that I can interlink those two things, right? I want to connect a note to a book. So what I would do is I would create my books database, and this used to be a more complicated process, but now there's somewhat of an onboarding. Once again, you'll notice that theme. They're kind of making things, they're putting the options in front of you instead of making you find the options, right? So if I click this plus button, it's easy to relate this to my notes database now, because I just go to type and I go down to relation, and it walks me through the steps, right? I can hit notes, and then it gives me all of the options that have to do with this relation, and they even give me a little bit of a preview. So I can relate the books to the notes. And so related to notes, we can limit how many it's able to relate to. So maybe I want a note or a book to relate to multiple pages. I don't want it to just be able to relate to one. So I'm just going to have no limit. And if I want this to show on the notes database as well, I can turn that on. If I don't want it to, then there's no worries there. I don't have to. Then I just hit add relation. And now it's going to pull up my notes, and I can select the note that is linked to this book. Update number 16 is still in the works a bit for Notion. I don't think that they've completed this, but they've started adding specific databases from other softwares and interconnecting them with Notion. Some of the databases that they've already connected are Jira and GitHub. They allow you to kind of copy support tickets or different bug lists that you have in GitHub, for instance, and paste them over to Notion. Since I don't use these softwares, I'm actually most excited about the one that they said is coming later this year in 2022, which is the Google Calendar copy and paste sync. So let me show you a little bit of a preview on Notion's website here. You can check this out. It's just notion.so/blog/synced-databases. And they have this nice little video here that shows how you are going to be able to connect your Google Calendar to your Notion calendar. So as you can see here, all they had to do was copy and paste it, and now it's a Notion calendar. So I thought that was pretty neat. I can't really show that example in this video because it's still somewhat in the works with some of these softwares that I would personally use. But I hope that that gave you guys a little bit of excitement for what's to come with Notion and connecting it with your other databases from different softwares. Now we're getting to pretty much present day when this video is coming out, which is mid to end August of 2022. And they just released a whole host of new features. So for update number 17, they added a new property called status. So let's say I have a task table here. Let's just name it tasks. And I could have some tasks in here like start on rebrand. And I could add a few different tasks in here, but for now, I'm just going to stick with these two. And for the status column, what we used to do is hit this plus and we use a select column. But now you can use this nice status column, which is going to show basically the status of a project as it moves along from like to do to in progress to complete. So there's different stages to the project and a visual way of seeing where something is at. So this not started is grayed out, and you can make it the default by hitting set as default, so that whenever you add a new to-do to this list or a new task to this list, it just says not started. And then as you move along here, you can change to in progress, or you can even change to done. Now, if I hit this plus button, I can add a new option type here. So let's say for a to-do, it's not started, or we could have it say something like stuck, for instance. So now we have two types of to-dos. We have stuck and not started. So if something is stuck, it's still considered a to-do. It's still grayed out here, and it's still something that needs to be done. But now the shareholders who are interested in moving projects along can see that it's stuck, and that's the reason that it's not started. You can also show the status as a checkbox. Update number 18 allows you to use the relation picker in Notion, and it just makes choosing which relation you're referring to easier. So if I go into my task database here, hit the plus button, go to type and relation. Now it allows you to choose which relation from here you're referring to, which database you want to connect. So let's say I wanted to connect Content Planner. It's that easy. And as I told you guys earlier, this onboarding process for relations is also a whole lot better than it used to be. So I know number 18 was kind of a continuation of number 15, but they've made so many changes to relations this year to make it just quicker and easier to use that they've broken this into multiple updates, and they kind of just meld together. Update number 19 makes it easier for people to request access to a page that you're trying to share with them. So it used to be you would just send somebody a link to a page, and if they didn't have access to it already, so let's say I hit share and I didn't add their email up here or their name, and I just copied the link and sent it off to them, normally it wouldn't say anything other than like, you can't access this content, but now it allows them to send you an email and notify you as an admin that they want access to that page. This is really nice if you're sharing your pages with a lot of different people and it needs to remain private, but you want to go through it and make sure that you're not forgetting anyone. Update number 20 made some improvements under the hood and made Notion a lot faster on your mobile devices. So if you have an iOS device, they claim that Notion is now 2 times faster on iOS, and it's even better for Android users because Android users got a 3x speed boost on their load times for their Notion app. Update 21 brought about a different way to view your pages in Notion if you're opening them from a database. So if I hover over my page here and I hit open, it's going to open up in side peek mode by default, where it pops out from the side like this. What it used to do is it used to pop up in the center, but now I can choose between the following by clicking this button. I can choose between side peek, center peek, and full page. And if I hit edit view details, I can change what the default is for my table. Update 22 made it easier to manage columns in Notion. So now we don't have to go through the process of setting our columns up by dragging things around and trying to get it just right. Now it's a whole lot easier. So all you have to do now to create columns is, let's say I open up this as a full page, and let's say I wanted these questions in columns instead of a list. All I would do is go ahead and highlight these blocks, click this button right here, and then I'd hit turn into and columns, and it turns it into 3 columns automatically because it can tell that they're all different blocks, and you can still drag them around like you used to. Now they also have a column preset. If you're creating a new page, you just hit slash and type in column, and you can see here that they have 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns, and 5 columns. So if I wanted to get 4 columns to work with, I just hit the 4 columns button, and now I've got all my columns here, and I can drag whatever I want into those specific columns. Again, a continuation of a previous update. For update number 23, Notion updated the way that you see link previews for some of your favorite softwares that you might use alongside Notion, such as Figma, GitHub, and Jira. I didn't really use this a whole lot on their first round, so I don't really know how the link previews have changed, but I know that they've gotten even better according to Notion. Update 24 allows you to react to comments in Notion. So now if I click add comment and I type something like hello and send it off, now people can use this add reaction button right here, and they can leave a reaction to my comment. It'll also pop up down here, and you can leave all kinds of different reactions or remove your old reactions. So that's pretty neat that they allow you to do that now. Makes it more of a chat interface than it used to be. Update 25 allows you to show a number or a formula result as a progress bar or a progress circle in Notion. So now if I create a new number property, I can select how I want it to show on Notion. So if it's just a number, I'm not going to get any extra options. But if I choose bar or ring, it's going to ask what I want to divide by. So let's say this is out of 10, and I want to show the number, and we're going to change the color to purple, and we're going to keep it on ring. You can also do bar, but then if I add a number in here like 5, it's going to divide that number by 10. So it's going to say like 5 out of 10. And as you can see, it's halfway complete. For this one, we could go 2, or we could go 1. And as you can see, it updates dynamically with this nice visual ring. And there used to be some ways that you could get around this and you could make a visual progress bar, but this just looks a whole lot nicer. And I'm so glad that Notion finally added this new feature. Update 26 made it possible to add a default template for your pages that you're adding to your database. It used to be that you had to click on a dropdown and then you had to select the template that you wanted to create. Now you can set a default so that it creates a page like that in Notion every single time that you create a new page. So to do that, you just click on this new up here, and it's going to pull you to whatever is set as the default. So right now it's empty page. But if I click this drop down, you'll see that empty page is set to default. But if I wanted to change the default to page template, I would just click this button here and then hit set as default. And you can decide if you want it to be for all views in this test database or only the table view. So I'm just going to say I want it to do it for all views. So now that that is set to default, if I hit new, it's going to automatically pull in my template that has this text in it. Now you might be wondering, Carter, where did you get all these snazzy icons that you have in your Notion account right now? Well, Notion actually allows you to use their own icon database within the app now. So you don't just get confined down to using emojis for your pages. Now you can actually click up here and there's an icons tab where you can select from tons of different icons. You can even type something in like water, and it's going to pull up a ton of water related things here. So let's go with the helm, and then boom, you can actually select the color that you want as well for that specific icon. So these look really nice and they have tons of different options. So it's just going to make your whole aesthetic within your Notion account a little bit more unique and nice for you. And I think it looks better and more professional than just the emojis. This one I personally waited for so long because it's something that you would think is just built into a software from the beginning, but Notion didn't add this right away. They finally did. And now in update 28, they allow you to align images how you want them. So you can left align them, center them, or align them to the right. Let me show you how. So if I hit the slash button and I type in image, hit enter, then pull something in from Unsplash, let's say. As you can see here, I can change the size of it. That's pretty much the same as before. But if I hover over it, there's this option up here for align. So I can choose if I want to align it left, if I want to align it right, or if I want to align it to the center of the column that I'm in. So if I dragged it into this experiments one, I could decide where I wanted it within this experiments column. So if I hover over it, it's a bit smaller here. I just hit more actions, go to the bottom, align, align left, or align right. Or we could go with center. Update 29 allows you to preview and mention comments within a Notion page. So if I go to a comment like this one here, I want to make my Notion account better, and I click the more actions button. I can then copy link to discussion and I can paste this elsewhere. And that's actually just going to give me the option to paste as preview, paste as mention, which looks like that, or paste as link, the boring version. But I'm just going to hit paste as preview. And if this was on a different page and I clicked on it, it would pull me to this page. So let's say it's on my productive dude page. I could click into here, click on that mention, and it's going to pull me to that comment. And finally, update 30 allows you to select if you want a relation to be limited to one page. And this is optional. I've got my notes here, and as you can see, some of these notes, like my standing desk cable management, are related to multiple people, which is totally okay in this case because I want to allow people to be in here, and I want to have multiple people on one note if there's multiple people related to that note. But if I wanted to change that setting, I'd go into this related people area, hit edit property, and then I can decide if I want to limit. So if I limit it to one page, it's only going to allow me to relate this to one person, which could come in handy if you ever want to limit something like that. Like maybe you're creating a note that's just about a specific person and you only want one person to get added to each of the notes. In that case, this would work extremely well. All right, so I wanted to add a little bonus tip for the end here, because in the past 24 hours, Notion has just released a new feature. So this is actually going to be 31 new features for 2022. And I'm sure they're going to continue adding on to this, but that's what the future videos are for. So definitely subscribe if you guys are interested in catching more updates on Notion in the future. But this final feature is pretty neat. It allows you to create a separate page section within your page, basically a subpage for your relation property. So we've got a few properties here related to this note that I took on eating for longevity. This is just part of my notes database. I have it in here and it's just tips for eating better. Now, if I go to this relation right here, normally it's just, among all of these other properties. But if I wanted to view it as a subpage, I can now click up here on these three dots in the corner and go to customize page. And then I'm going to want to direct my attention to this areas property. I can click on this drop down here, and then we can now show as a page section. So if I hit as page section, as you can see, it divides it out and it makes its own little section here. And you can even go ahead and hit new page in areas, and you can add another area that this might be related to. So if health is one area, I might make another area called longevity. And I could even add another one called diet. So this is a new way to deal with relations within your page, and it saves a lot of time. So that is that for this year's Notion updates from January of 2022 all the way to August of 2022. I'm sure Notion has more in store for this year, but I just wanted to bring this update video to your guys' attention because Notion has made a lot of changes and the software looks a bit different than it used to. So hopefully this gets you on the same page as the other Notion users who are locked in and they know what's going on. And hopefully you learned something in this video. If you did, please go ahead and leave a like, comment below with some feedback, kind words, any sort of criticisms that you have. I'm happy to hear you out in the comments below. And also subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, we'll see you in the next one.